Coaches, good morning. This is Coach Gibbs in the lab. I'm pleased to be joined by the defensive coordinator at Bucknell, Coach Jeff Long. Coach, thanks for taking the time today.
Coach Gibbs, I appreciate it, man.
I'm looking forward to it, dude. This is going to be good. Coach, real quick, just got to pay the bills. Guys, we're just newly sponsored by the Coordinator Corner on Twitter. Custom playbooks. Coach Dan Budd does all my slides, so at Coach Bud FB on Twitter. So check them out. Coach, for guys that obviously, we talked about a little bit about your coaching career and your journey. So for guys that maybe know a little bit about you, maybe don't know anything about you, or they know everything about you, they kind of rehash where you started. How'd you get to Bucknell?
Yeah, no problem. So was most recently the head football coach at Moravian University, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Was there for 3 years. Was an awesome place. Still in the process of moving, the family out to Lewisburg now. So we're still in that Lehigh Valley area right now. And prior to that was at John Carroll University for 6 years. Was the defense coordinator. I started as a D-line coach there, just kind of working the way back. But had some great experiences there, met some great people, and that's how this Bucknell thing happened, right? Like at the end of the day, Coach Behrman and I met back when he took the John Carroll job in 2020, at the beginning of the 2023 season, that winter, and we were going to work together, right? It was exciting, and it was going to get retained, and then the Moravian opportunity came, and it was a chance that I couldn't pass up, for myself, my family, us as a unit. We try to make sure we're always looking at those things, and to be a head coach in a great area, a little closer to where I'm from. I grew up in New Jersey originally. It was an opportunity that we wanted to take, and we loved it. It was fantastic. Great experience there, great place, did some great things, and the guys were fantastic. The alums, the support was fantastic. And then, Coach Behrman, Carroll, again, they continue their tradition of excellence, but he took it to another level, in terms of that consistency, and brought it back in the Final Four run. And when he called, after he took the Bucknell job, it was, hey, let's have a conversation. I was really interested in getting the gang back together. And, for me, it was like, hey, I could have worked with him once and, chose a different path. But when it's the second time, sometimes it's fate knocking, right? So you got to make sure that you can make that opportunity happen. So it's been a wild ride. It's been fantastic. And it's been a fun spring so far. We start spring ball next week. So ready to rock and roll.
That's awesome. So, I'm a Jersey guy myself, Manasquan High School alum, played and coached there, representing the Warriors on the pod today.
There you go.
We had one of my younger teammates. Now, again, I say younger, I'm 46. I think Brian's 43. He went and played at Moravian back in the early 2000s. So, the Jersey connection is always strong. Now, are you a pork roll or Taylor ham guy?
I'm a pork roll guy. So I grew up South Jersey. I went to Cherokee High School.
Okay.
So played down there, and
pork roll.
pork roll truther.
Okay.
And in our area too, scrapple's the big thing, right?
Oh man, I tell you, my uncle lives in Conshohocken, so I love when we would go visit him. I'd get scrapple at the diner and soak up all that goodness.
Amen, brother. Amen.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, we were talking off air before, so I'm excited to take a look at this. Coach is going to talk some block destruction, and then we're going to get into some variations of the bear. So, Coach, I'm going to sit back and be a student here, and you go ahead and let it rip.
For sure. No, I appreciate it. Am I able? I could just share, right? I'm good to go.
Yep, you're good to go.
Awesome. Okay. Go. Sure that's working here. Can you see that pretty good, Coach?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right. So biggest thing as we get rolling today, we're going to talk full defensive block destruction, like whether it's circuit, things like that, but really it's how do you incorporate it into your daily work menu. Okay. We'll talk about the why behind it, why it's worked for us at Carroll, why it worked for us at Moravian, and then some real film examples, right? Like where it's popping up across multiple programs over multiple years. I think that's why I chose this topic, if I'm being honest, because sometimes when you do these, it's, hey, it's great in theory, but is this something you have applied every day? And this is the first thing that I thought of. I'm like, okay, this is something we do every day as a team, whether it's 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you circuit it out. But really just taking a look at that, some of the film, and then the real game examples, what we're looking at, and talk through some of that technique. And then the beginning of our bear pressure series. So, that 5-up presentation. We'll get through 2 variations of it today. There's a ton that we have built off of it. We'll talk about why it's a positive and how it can help you attack an offense. All right. So biggest thing, right, quickly, we talk about things that we communicate with our guys and the buzzwords, so to speak, right? Like, we're going to talk about this block destruction. There's 2 types of blocks, right, that, hey, maybe you've heard this before, seen it in a different way. But at the end of the day, I think it is important to talk through the guys, okay, and every day, and make sure that those buzzwords are constantly brought up, while also focused on and planned out in practice. If you're just trying to say, hey, we'll get the block destruction stuff necessarily, whether it's just by individual position only, like, hey, maybe your backers have more of it than your DBs. That to me is a disadvantage, right? Like, every position is going to have to do it. It's got to be a core fundamental, not just catching the ball, not just tackling, right? Block destruction is key there. So you talk about the 2 types of blocks that we see, right? That anybody, you can boil them down, right? The indirect block, right, and the direct block. Okay, your direct block, right? Your base man on man, the guy has the leverage that he wants. Okay, and now he's on his straight line path. All right, we want to take that on indirectly, right? Like, we don't want to run down his center. Okay, we want to attack half the man. We want to make a decision based on our time and space, right? We'll talk about that as we go through, and we'll see that in the film. We're not going to go through all these. We'll talk through the buzzwords and talk through those together, right? And then your indirect blocks take on directly. So, hey, now he's coming from a different level. He's pulling. He's kicking out. You can attack that now with hands and get a little thicker, get a little violenter, and have a decisive way to attack it. Okay. Those are the 2 that we talk about. And hey, how do we want to approach it? Because those approaches are going to be really important. Okay. We'll talk about the hand and foot placement, right? You want to make sure always straining for that flat back, low pad level, but really the elbows in, thumbs up, right? And making sure we have a slight stagger. Okay. And we're working speed to lock, right? That initial strike is key. We want to aim, as we go through, we'll talk through the different aiming points with different film examples, but the violent lockout's what creates the separation. If you have your hands inside, but we're nice and tight, that's what the offense wants, right? So we got to make sure that we're putting ourselves in that separation. We're playing defense. We need to separate. All right. And we'll talk about, some different block destruction types. You're going to have your shock and shed. You're going to get more of your downhill and box type runs. Okay, you're stun to leverage, right? We're focusing on shock and shed today. All right, we will see some void and stun examples, but we're going to focus on the shock and shed, right? You want a sternum and cuff hand placement. Make sure your inside hand is attacking the sternum plate. All right, the near sternum plate, and the outside hand's on the cuff of the jersey. All right, and then we're shedding down and out through the off hip, but we want it to be violent and down. Okay. So we'll take a look at a few of these here. But why are we even talking about this, right? Like, I think just now that you know what we're going to discuss from that indie plan, what's the why behind it? I'm big on that. If you can explain the why, you can move mountains, right? But the basic thing is, hey, to play defense, you have to destroy blocks. There is not a defense on this planet that says, oh, okay, I don't have to destroy blocks. I just run to the ball. We love running to the ball, but there will be blockers there. What do you do? Right? What do you do when the time comes? And if you don't boil it into your DNA as a defense, it'll become something that's inconsistent. All right. And the advantages of the full defensive circuits and the teaching that comes behind it. You're teaching every level of the defense, right? Every position and coach involved and active. All right. At Carroll, we had a fair amount of guys on the roster, right? You'll see some film of that. We were able to get filmed years ago, which I still use to this day, and there's a lot of guys on that field. You have to make sure you're keeping them engaged, coached, and active, right? Same with different interactions with different coaches. It can't just be the same coach every time. It's making the staff accountable and the players, right? Like, the standard is consistent. We understand, hey, 5-10 minutes a day, we go for the 10-minute block. That's the preferred method. At the end of the day, becomes a daily accountability. If you're not destroying blocks, you're not going to play. Okay. It's not something that we can have. All right. And I think the biggest thing that I felt, I put this on here because especially today's day and age, each player is different. We get that. And each player has their own skill set, their own, personality, right? And we can celebrate that, but our intent in destroying blocks as a defense cannot be different. And if you commit to this daily, right, in your work days, so to speak, of the week, this is something that, hey, that you can demand that, and now they know it's a non-negotiable, right? And again, I didn't create non-negotiables. I didn't create that concept, but it's something we believe in, all right? And then again, I think the other thing it trains, all right, and the other thing to talk about is approach and decision time, right? You want to constantly, in my opinion, discuss leveraging the ball and the angles of a block and how they change. It can't just be, hey, on the film, hey, you see how he's coming at this angle, or hey, you're the force here, go this way. It's got to be incorporated into real life application, right? So present them with options on how to attack the blocks, right? That's really important because you don't want them to freeze. You don't want them to have those opportunities and now say, well, wait, this wasn't exactly like the film. You're showing them different ways and creating different opportunities to see it. All right. So we're going to take it through to start. Okay. Clicking ahead because some of it's longer film. But as you can see, we're starting here in the base fit. Okay. And again, you got 16 guys going at once. You got 2 coaches running the drill, but we work our fit and lock drill is the start. Okay. So again, a couple things as I come back through here. You want to start in the fit position. As you take a look at some of these guys, you have a nice stagger. I know the film's a little far away, just our limitations there, but you see slight stagger, inside foot up, just like the approach of a tackle, right? If I'm splitting the crotch of the blocker, right, to attack half a man, I want that inside foot up, that slight power step, okay, 6 to 8 inches. All right. I don't want to be stepping out of my frame. I don't want my stance to be out of my frame because even as I've attacked this block and I've come to balance now, okay, I want to make sure, hey, I'm in that spot, but I don't want to have one leg so far back that I have no power coming through. All right. At the end of the day, we're working in this drill. We're in the fit. We're getting our hands, our elbows in, thumbs up. Okay. We're getting our hands on the sternum and the cuff. And on the hit, we're looking to make sure that, hey, we can put ourselves in a position. Coach, hold on 1 second for me. I apologize. One second. Sorry, Coach. I got the dog. I got to make sure she gets out when I'm home alone here.
I hear you, brother.
But we're in that position, keeping our base so we have that slight power. But we start here to work the hands and then really emphasize the lock, right? The lock you see right here. Okay, he's already executed his lock, and now we want to see the lockout. He's keeping his stagger, and now the snag back through, right? So this is just one example. We're working, as you can see, we call it class on the grass period. Okay, so we're working this. There are no shoulder pads on right now. Okay, this is something where we are focusing on the detail here of the lock and the shed portion. Up here, they're working the approach to contact, right? So as they come out and close the distance, just like you would circuit a tackle, now we're talking through the fine points of what's the angle we want to take. And then over here, the D line, they could focus in. It's the same concept of their key drill, right? And how are they working their steps from ground to target and working that speed to lock? So we're going to keep our eyes right here, though. That's a nice job of saying, hey, right now, boom, I have the lock. I've had my elbows in. I'm controlling the blocker. And now I'm snagging down and out. Only thing I'll say here, and this is the important part, when you're doing these class on the grass exercises, your teach periods that turn into a work period, okay, I want to see that finish, right? We can really snag that down a little more. Exaggerate it here, okay? Down and out through the off hip, meaning, hey, not the hip that I have leverage with, right? I want to be down and out through the hip so I don't now try to lose leverage right off the rip, okay? And we'll talk about cross leverage blocks, but right now it's right here of, hey, this is my leverage. I want to keep it, and it's start putting your hands on them, right, to create that fit, and then working the lock to shed, really slowing it down and making it a point to say, hey, This is important, right? And this is something you can get into the finer details. And again, that was a day where we just had helmets on, okay? So that was not a heavy work day, air quotes, right? But it's still that class on the grass mindset. Hey, this is the teaching of it. And now you circuit with everybody. You could keep a different topic of block destruction for each segment, rotate them around, right? But at the end of the day, it's going through those finer details, all right? And then this became a daily workday drill for us, okay? So as we come in, we were lucky. We had a little two-man here. But at the end of the day, now taking that fit, lock, and shed mentality and adding the finisher to it, right? But notice if you see here, I want to watch the near defender here. All right. Obviously, you have 5 here is ready for the tackle, so to speak. Okay. We were working more tackle approach. But what I love in this picture, okay, as I go slow-mo here, boom, we have a slight stagger. He doesn't step out of his frame. He gets the power step, the 1-2, right? The 1-2, bang. His second steps in the ground. He's making contact. And now those hands, boom, inside leverage. We're striking low to high. Notice as he makes contact right there, those hands are above his eyes, right? He's working for that strain, flat back, boom. Now our violent shed. Again, the coaching point here where we will constantly bring this up. It'll come up on tape, but now here, hey, we didn't finish the shed enough, right? As we're working these sleds, one thing I've always told guys and the thing that I believe in is you have to exaggerate the shed on these sleds, whether it's a single pop-up, the double, right? When you have the tech sled, you have to exaggerate it. We'll strike at Moravian. We had we call it the iron bar that we took the popsicle off, man, the pad off, and we hit the iron and we said, hey, when we're striking that thing, when we're shedding down and out through the off hip, we got to see that thing flip. We have to have that standard of violence to it, right? And then you build in your approach, right? Notice he's not wasting steps. He's really doing a great job of closing the distance while not losing speed. Okay. He probably needs to, again, as we're focusing on this young man right here, I'd probably say, got to scrape the grass a little bit. He's a little heavy footed on his approach, but I love the intent behind the drill here in terms of his intent. He's not just doing the block destruction, then, hey, let's jog through, right? But there's intent, both of these young men, right? They move differently. They have different skill sets. But now this intent of how we're finishing and how we're going to strike someone in a thud period, it shows up and it's constant. All right. I think that's really important as you can see us go through. And again, ton of guys, but rapid reps building off of this. And then we would spend time on this in our indie sessions. Okay. So let's look at another example here. Okay. It's another 2 guys. Let's talk through it together as we look at the coaching point. My issue here as we look at the near defender. Really? Okay. Not a bad stagger, but now look at his back leg. We kind of got out of frame here. All right. When I say out of frame, when your base is out of your frame, you lose all lower half power. Then as we go through here, really hard, he gets it at the end because the sled helps him. But at the end of the day, worse locking, it takes a little longer for locking. I don't know if he ever actually gets the full lock. We're just now, okay, hey, I'm striking. I'm trying to generate force because I've stepped high. I'm not low to high. And now, okay, yes, I shedded the block. I'm running over here out of control. The tackle's a little better. Okay, we'd like him to be near leg, near shoulder leverage here and make sure that we're running through it instead of crossing this thing all the time. But at the end of the day here, that's the tough part. You can really go into the detail. Right here is where this block destruction was lost in half a man, okay? Because right here, his head is above his hands. That's not going to create any strike or violence in what he's doing, all right? So let's look at some real game examples, okay? I tried to highlight them on here so we could take a look at it. But now, here you go. All right, we're going to take a look. Ooh, apologies. Fat fingers there. All right. Making time and space in a decision. And now, hey, the lock and shed portion, right? So he's working. He's the perimeter force player on this play. He has his receiver coming through. Okay, now I'm going to attack the outside half. Lock. That violent shed is the key, right? I don't love necessarily the way his feet, he'd like the inside foot to get up. But at the end of the day, he was decisive. He had that time and space. He said, all right, I'm going to work outside in because that's my fit. But now the lock, rip, right? The lock, shed. He's disengaging, okay? When to use that shed. Hey, I am a force player, okay? This isn't a time to try to rip off a block. I want to strike with hands, and I'm going to put it down and out through the off hip, okay? Add in on a tackle. Okay, let's take a look at another one here. All right, same year, same guy here. Now let's have that decision. Okay, he sees the bubble coming out. That's his job, right? Blocker's still going to block, but having that time and space. Okay, here's what the next piece of it. So we have that we're establishing that violence, right? But now as we go through, can you make a decision, play with hands, and use knockback as your weapon? Okay. Yes, you are the force player 100%. Half a man is the key. He turns his shoulders here. That gives us a shot. But the violence of the strike, that shock, and then the finish shed is the only piece I got here. The shock was violent enough. It got him off platform. By him, I mean the blocker. He worked the outside half as he's skating around. All right, hey, the shed is where I need us to fix it. We need to be a little more violent here. All right, he's able to hold us. Holding's not acceptable here. But now, as you see, this comes from daily. This is popping up in the various pieces of the defense. Okay, that is the standard. All right. Okay, here we go. One more time. Now we're working that inside out. Okay, your force players out here. We got an alley player here. He's like, hey, I'm going to go ball over blocker, but look at the intent. Look at the low to high. Boom. Finding that speed to lock as fast as he can. Bang, inside out, because he had the help, right? And we spend a whole nother day talking about your avoid situation, your sight corner here. He's like, hey, ball's out. I'm going, right? You're playing the cover 2 world. He's working. Boom. Let me put him on his back, restack, and I'm ready to go. 2 great clips of block destruction types, but now how, hey, each block is different, right? Hey, I have inside leverage here. Okay, I have to be a little more forceful because he has an angle on me to take myself from the ball. Hey, I'm the force player here. He's giving me a slow stem. So now when I am decisive and I am just confident in my job, I can take a risk, beat him to his leverage, restack, and put myself in a position to not only go make a play, but do so violently and set an edge, even on the perimeter.
Coach, are you coverage-wise in that? Are you trapping it? Is it Tampa for you, quarters? What are you playing there?
This is a quarter half here.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
So like we're in quarter, half right here, poach of 3.
Got it.
So just play it as the tricks world, right?
Got it.
So again, we do some various things defensively, and we were in the middle field close world with the different 3 rotations, match and zone. We're in the quarters world as well. We can have tons of talks about those as we go through. All right. And, future times. Right now, let's take it to a different position. We did some started on the perimeter, but now let's see it pop up here. Watch 38, right? One of the backers. I think the biggest thing here. All right, here we go. Direct block, right? That straight line path. He's working to climb. Boom. We strike. Half a man. I love the feet here. Only thing I don't love is the inside arm, right? If we're being honest. This violence and propulsion, though, this action is teach tape. The inside hand is where we got to focus on, right? Because right now, when you flipper it, okay, you lose the ability to control the blocker, but also to create that violent shed. Right now, his outside arm's actually pretty good. He's got the cuff part, right? But the sternum part is where he's struggling because he's in the flipper. All right, when you don't grab cloth, you put yourself in a rough spot. One more second, Coach. I'll be right there.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
But you notice here, he's got the strike, and the lock is happening from his outside arm, right? He gets to the lock with the inside, but it just goes without control, right? But the violence, the intent are right there as he keeps his leverage, all right? Now, again, we talked about it. We want to see it in different places. Those drills you saw earlier, right? They pop up everywhere. Those circuits are something that we will do daily. Here you go, even to the D-line, building it into their key drills as we look at the end zone here. You're going to see number 6, right? The defensive tackle, he's working that key in the tip of the pad, but that speed to lock conversation, boom, that's the basis of our D-line play. As you look at 6 right here, all right, he's working, boom, contact, lock, press. Now he's crossing leverage, right, which we, again, whole nother day with myself and our D-line coach, Anthony Trotta, and Jay Ugu at Moravian. We talk speed to lock and then being able to tempo the ball. But you see the violence of it. That is popping up in all facets of the defense. It's not just D linemen, right? This is D-line teach tape, right? But it's getting drilled as a whole defense. Here you go. Now we're out on the perimeter again, right? Having that decision, time and space. This is more of a, hey, he has the leverage to go and run through and speed the lock outside. But now, hey, if he wants to retreat and the ball takes me there, great. All right. But he has the intent. I wanted to show this for intent. He's running through. He's got his inside foot up. He's ready to go speed the lock on this thing. He's ready to strike. He's got the sternum and cuff. The blocker decides to turn it down. Not our issue, right? It gives us the time and leverage. He has the intent. The receiver did not, right? I think as we look at that one more time, that's the important. That's what we want to build is that, hey, we have the intent. If they don't want to, cool. We're not going to go block ourselves to get blocked, but now we are an unblocked and unmolested defender that can go take down the ball carrier. Okay, let's look at it again from the end zone here, right into the backer world again. All right, so let's see. How does he attack it, right? Direct block. He's coming straight at me on my path. Indirectly, half a man. Boom. Okay, don't love the head bobbing that takes place, but he has the strike. The hand placement's there. The lock is where, hey, that's the only beef I got with him. But he was violent and sudden, and the shed is decisive, right? 77 takes the inside half. We're attacking the outside half. Okay, bang, shed, and now I'm in my spot. Don't love the tackle finish. Okay, we have another day on our tackling finish here. But the block destruction piece, half a man, strike, violence, and violent finish. Take a look at it at the end zone again. Let's see. We're going to watch that again, popping up on the D-line. Now, even though we get a little bit out leveraged here, this tackle does a great job, 73, of getting the reach steps here. But watch the lockout, the lock. And now we shed violently. The violent shed. This is teach tape here. Even when you're losing your half-man leverage, when you shed with intent, right, that's when great things can happen, okay? And we will work the down and out shed. We'll work a rip, but we'll also work that little hump move as a part of our indie circuit with the block destruction, okay? Again, popping up with the D-line film, right? Let's look at the lock. Boom, press, and let's go. It's time to shed. He doesn't shed. This is where, hey, in our drill work, I'd probably go back, and if I watched film that week, I guarantee it popped up where, hey, his lock work was really good, but the shed is where we got to do a better job of coaching that violence with it, right? We didn't do enough there. We didn't put ourselves in enough of a spot to get it done. Here we go one more time. Now you're outside backer world, okay, as you go through. Let's look at the speed to lock. Let's see. Bang, lock. We're pressing it out. He's playing a little 9 jam 7 here for us Saban fans, okay? That blood 9, okay? Working outside in, working to win the C gap with that speed to lock. You see his feet. Watch it. Even though there's a little twist there, he stays within his frame. He's not getting super wide, okay? He strikes the inside pad. He works that lock. And now, would I like a more violent shed? For sure. Okay, he's a young pup, Hunter Johnson. He did a great job, right? He's a violent player. We're going to continue to work that. But the lock and that demand of it is right there and popping up. That's a daily occurrence, and that's how you can play it at the line of scrimmage, the second level, and the like. And again, I showed the different variations and kept it simple, but when it pops up over years and years, it goes to the players, right? Like they're the ones that play it. But when you demand it, that's when you can create that group accountability that, hey, this is how we're going to play the game. This is the way we're going to play. All right. And that's the importance of it for us.
I think the one thing that, I know I wrote down the one clip you showed about the when you're on the sled, and you showed the elongated stance and then not really having that power to be violent with the sled. And then every other example was the lock with the violence and getting rid of it. So I think for coaches, that's great, because then, most guys are visual as opposed to analytical, but that see those two pictures, I think for me is like awesome, because I can go back and say, hey guys, this ain't it. Right. And then you show that the right way to do it. And then the game film to prove it. That's awesome.
I think the biggest thing too, Coach, to your point with that is we're teachers at the end of the day.
Yep.
So it's become now, without it, you got to find that balance of, you got to just provide that feedback, right, visually. If you can't, right, and like I said, and you just hit the nail on the head, it's got to be, yes, out on the field, right there, but also in the film. Like if you can get that filmed and now you saw the clear difference when a young man says, hey, what do I have to do better? Hey, buddy, we have to replicate this, right? This is the standard. This is how we destroy blocks right now. Hey, maybe this is and he's not meeting that standard. It just creates that consistency. And hey, it's not because I'm not a good player, right?
Nope.
It's, oh no, this is the standard, right? And when you can create that, it creates clarity. And some guys will meet it. Some guys won't, right? That's the nature of the game. But it creates that feedback and clarity of, hey, this guy, like this, I want to help, right? But here's the clear standard. I can't move on and we can't move off of, right? And there you go, right? And then and taking that, and that's that clear standard of every piece of the position that you want that young man to play, right? And how you want your defense to be. It's creating those pictures, right? And making sure that they understand it. So I'm with you. It's been a huge plus. And each year I've gotten, I think, better. Like as a coach, that's where I feel like I've grown, is that keeping it simple. Like when I started out coaching D-line, okay, I got to, I picked the brain of some guys that I had played under, right? Whether it was high school, college, and then I studied Coach Larry Johnson, right? Like I mastered, watched his drill tapes over and over. I got to watch him coach when he was at Penn State at the camps in Ohio State and years later. And I realized I wasn't Larry, right? Like I get that. But what could I do to create that production, right? Like to say, hey, how can we create that consistency? It's keeping things simple, right? And just giving that visual feedback as much as possible.
100%, man. I think we've been in it a long time, and I think the one thing that I always go back to, especially in the off season, you go back and you look at what you were successful at the year before, what you need to work on, and then like you said, you're at Moravian, and all of a sudden, boom, you get a phone call, right? And it's like now you're in a whole nother deal with new players, and I just took a new job myself after being at a spot for 2 years, and it's to me, I like the being at a spot, being consistent, but I also like the challenge of reestablishing, things and meeting new people and, affecting a new group of kids, at a different program. So I think that's awesome. And then, like I said, we're both cut from the same cloth, man. We're both Jersey guys, as Coach Parcells would say.
Mm-hmm.
Working hard and but like that stuff to me that you just went through is invaluable for any coach at any level. Like I'm helping out my son's youth football program now. He's in 6th grade, starting tackle for the first time, and sure. I can't wait to share this with our head coach so he can see, because again, it's about teaching, right? Like at the end of the day, this is our classroom.
Yep.
We just get blessed to be able to do something that we're just extremely passionate about. I taught history for 23 years before taking this job, and but yeah, man, I love it. And I'm excited. I'm a pressure guy, so I'm excited.
For sure. Well, I think the next piece, right, as we transition into it, is that the beginnings of our Bear Pressure series. And again, we can be simple with it. You're 5 up, right? 5, 5, 0, 5, right? And I'm drawing the X's because this is how, when you get into the Bear Pressure series, in my opinion, okay, we'll put the ball right here. I'm going to be sacrilegious and draw the B, okay? Get everybody all fired up, right? Pardon my huddle fingers here, all right? But as we're drawing this out, I do this for the kids, and it becomes super simple, right? Just understanding what are the positives of getting into this alignment, right? And for years, right, this alignment was king in short yardage and goal line, right? Obviously, Coach Buddy Ryan, being in the shade of South Jersey there, right? Mm-hmm. I grew up hearing stories about his defense, right? And they did it all over the place, right? The Bear cover 1, and they'd get to some Tampa 2, right? All that fun stuff. But for us, where we kind of brought it back was when I was taught this Bear series to start, it was in the short yardage and goal line, right? You're packing the box, creating one-on-ones, you're choking tight ends, right, as they walk up, right? Like your bear and people, in the bear stick or heavy bear stick, right? Every coach is run a version of it. And when I became the coordinator at Carroll, after being the D-line coach, I was selfish. Like D-line wise, I loved coaching bear because now I said, hey, you're putting 4 D linemen, sometimes 5. Hey, it's one-on-ones, right? So just doing the math in itself, hey, we're man for man. And very rarely on the D line and even as a defense, right? We're not always like that. We're not able to replicate that as much in the open field. So we said, hey, how can we do that as much as possible, right? Without necessarily selling the farm and being choked up and almost in a cover 0 short yardage, right? So it started with, hey, we can get in this bear presentation instead of the traditional Sam all the time, right? Coming up, because usually it's your outside backers, right? Like we call it the anchor, but like some people call it the jack or the buck, and then your 3 defensive linemen, and then you have your Will and your Mike, right? That's the traditional bear look, right? And you have your coverage guys, whether it's the stick coverage, like a version of 0 and leveraging the ball. But for us, to get into cover 1, if we did this, we now, it's a tough matchup now. If they're in 11 personnel, 10 personnel, where this game has gone to, you're kind of undressing yourself from a coverage perspective. So what we started doing was, all right, how do we create this, right? Same outside backer to the boundary here, but now, hey, let's walk ourselves up with the mic, right? And you see, we studied Coach Fangio a ton as he gets into what he calls his penny fronts, okay? Very similar ideas as we go through there. But now we're walking up the mic and we're creating this 5-1 picture without sacrificing the core. Your nickel, let's say, is still, or what we call the penny, that overhang. He's still out in coverage, right? Like, so you're not undressing yourself from the back end. And now we're going to look at today the base cover 1 variation, right? So, hey, we're going to send the 5 as we go through, right? Talk about the different techniques and what we're looking at to do. And then, hey, yes, obviously we man on the tailback or working in conjunction with the safety and the 2-back stuff. And we'll also get into a variation off it that we've built in the red zone with a bear pressure with double bracket, like some red, what we call red 4. Coach Partridge, who's now out with Seattle, calls it blue or doubles from his time with Don Brown and the like. So, I think it'll be cool to show, but it's really the bear pressure, why behind it, right? Creating predictability from the offense, okay? Especially in high leverage situations. So 3rd down, obviously your short yardage always comes into play. But if you can also create, we will build this in. This will be in our first 2nd down plan. We'll have a bear pressure call that's in the plan, right? Whether we're stemming to it from an even front, right? And you'll see it, for example, I believe on the first clip, because the more you can incorporate it in the open field and things of that nature, one, you're setting that mindset for the kids. Like we're going violent knockback, right? You see it right here. Displace the line of scrimmage. We play with bloody knockback up front. That's whether we're in an odd Russian 4, an odd Russian 3, an even Russian 4, and coverage behind it. That doesn't change. So this pressure puts that on full display for them. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you a one-on-one, brother. Are you going to put your hands on another man and displace that line of scrimmage violently? This pressure will let you find that out very quickly. All right. And from the run, and again, we talk about the advantages, right? The run, the 3-0-3 presentation, right? So your covered guards, your center, and then your covered tackles, right? Or tight ends, depending on the set. It forces changes to base run scheme. And as a former old lineman myself, and I was very blessed to play, for Tom Perkovich, now the head coach at Albany. We competed against each other these last 3 years. He was at Susquehanna, was building a phenomenal program there, and it was an honor to compete with him. Weird full circle moments as, he coached me and recruited me, right? But, he was one of the best offensive line coaches I've ever seen, right, and ever worked with. And I know he's done a phenomenal job with that. He's forgotten more ball than I could ever know. But I know for a fact we spent a lot of time in our skull sessions, our class on the grass time, our work that we did in that O-line room and in that those periods in practice, that bear presentation, we had to prep it. And we, had to alter and tweak a lot of our base rules of our base schemes, right? Whether it was pin and pull, whether it was power, right? All these things. We had to get really, really creative with that. Okay. And by be creative and just take that extra time. So when you can incorporate it, not just, okay, hey, they're going to get in the bear in the short yardage, but now it's on 3rd down, right? Or, hey, now it's on 1st and 2nd down. Now it's like, okay, there has to be layers of bear. And if you don't know when it's coming, but if you don't prep for it, you're going to create an issue in terms of, hey, Everybody's covered. The combos all change, right? All those things. It creates a little bit of hesitancy. As a former line, I remember that. Like, hey, like when they're getting into bear, it had to be corrected a certain way on our end, right? And I think offensive coaches do a great job of finding ways to check out of it, which we'll talk about here in a second, to put themselves in advantageous things. But in doing so, it's creating predictability. You know, if you give bear what they can check to, right? And if you can do that, and you know the cards, you give yourself a shot to make it about block destruction and tackling, running to the ball, right? That's what we're trying to do. Make it about that. All right. Versus the pass, right? As we say, hey, why bear pressure? What does it do? Simplifies the protection options, excuse me. So you're going to get your big on big, right? Or full slide. There will be teams that try to split slide it. It happens usually on accident. If I'm being honest. So either we're getting the true 5-on-5, hey, man for man, which is great because now defensively we need to create one-on-ones. Their offense is always trying to get +1, right, or have that extra hat. If we're in a protection, especially against 5-out teams, right, 5 out, and they want to get the back out. All right, now we got one-on-ones. That's what we train for. That's what we have to win in order to make an opportunity. Or they're going to full slide and get the back or the tight end involved in the protection, like 6-man stuff, okay? So, again, winnable option because now you're taking one of your less trained pass protectors and working against an edge rusher who trains that daily and who has that violent edge to him. So we're going to see some examples of both, right? But they're winnable options for us, whether it's base D&D in the run or pass, and then that, hey, money down, get off the field, right? And we're trying to talk about that double edge variation, but then the layers, right, and games you can build off of it, right, off those vertical one-on-one to send in 5. Then we have your sims, right, which we could talk about another day, but you'll have, hey, we could send 5 and get the twist going on the inside, right? That's Coach Belichick's special for years. Again, I did not – this ain't unique to us, right? It's exciting to bring this to another place that, hey, we can create these things for these guys and create layers off of that simple presentation to create the little delay games and now games and all those things that still at the core still be running that bear send 5, right? And I think the biggest thing too that I've found, and this is from just like a game plan perspective, you don't have to necessarily go into it with the kids, but we try to as we continue to grow our knowledge of it. Offensive counters to bear are pretty well known, right? Like in terms of, hey, if you get bear, this is what you do, okay? But the question I ask every week, and this is something that like it allows you to help game plan, will that coordinator or team abandon their core identity to execute them? Right? So you can, any defensive game plan takes place, all right, hey, top 5 runs, top 5 pass concepts, right? Or even, hey, I've gotten each year, I try to narrow it down top 3, right? Keep it simple. Take away their best stuff, right? Don't try to add more to it, right? And say, okay, hey, they ran this one time. Like, get their top 3 out of those formations, make them play left-handed. But the question I always ask is, all right, if we mix in bear here, if that becomes something we want to do, have they ever run the speed option, right? Speed options is a day 1 check in the spread world of, hey, you're getting bear cover 1. Let's make that that edge player that we're going to read. Let's make him work. He's got a feather, right? And then who's the guy, right? If it's the backer that's behind, we could try to seal him off. He's man on the tailback, right? And then is that post safety going to get involved? That's a lot of time and space, right? We're going to see an example of that, what that looks like, right? If you know that's coming, right? Yes, they may have the edge, but that pressure, we could still make a play. And the kids are like, oh, hey, they're checking. Speed options coming, right? Sprint out, right? Checking the sprint pass. And we'll talk about the different ways we can overload. And off of that, that's a later combo as we go through the layers to the pressure. But all right, hey, they want to check sprint out, get out of their drop back. Great. Is that a part of their base identity? Right? When someone is a run speed option or run sprint out, that's something they put in from day 1. If that's not what they put on tape, are they going to bet to like, all right, hey, let's put it in for this week? Probably not. And if they are, they're getting away from their core. Which when you get an offensive play caller to get away from his core, in my opinion, that's when they're uncomfortable and when you now can attack, right? And then GT counter, getting those guys moving, whether it's the guard tackle backside, or you're going to see an example on here of a team that went inline Y and brought the inline Y hand in the dirt and the guard rapid through against the bear, trying to check to get us into hey, we're at disadvantaged numbers, or they're getting such knockback, but are they able to, hey, press and knock back with leverage once the pullers all take to a different spot? And the answer is yes, right? If you know these are coming, right, you could prepare for them. Hey, because we're going to have to make a call against a tough look sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's important that the guys know it. But then the question we ask is, we do it. So, hey, is he really going to go to those basic checks of how to defend the bear? It's up to you to decide, and up to you if you want to do it, right? So here we go. First one off the rip, right? We're stemming to the bear cover one, right? So we had the QB indicator, right, as we prep throughout the week, okay? Early in the game, we were stemming from bear to an even front, and now in the second half, we said, all right, let's do it the other way, right, like we had repped all week. And now you see the displaced knockback, boom, right? They're going to get a little pin and pull, really G scheme, right, as the front side G as I see it here. But they're getting them both out, and they have to change on the fly, right? Their count was one way with the even front. Okay, we're good, right? It's our base 4 down quarters. Now we're stemming to, hey, we're sending 5. It's cover 1. That corner's running. We haven't run with the motion all day, right? And now we see it for the first time. Okay, yeah, they're getting the man, but that blocking scheme, you see, oh, wow, there's guys leaving. There's guys now that, oh, we're unblocked, right? We're taking that calculated risk as you see it through, okay? Boom, we stem to that bear, creates that indecision. So, again, were they repping pin and pull versus bear? I don't know. It's 2nd and 10, right? It's 2nd and 10. They're not necessarily – they have some numbers out there, but when you're at numbers to block nobody and the front line guys are unblocked, that's when you give yourself a chance, okay? All right, let's talk about it again. Now we're going to get a pass look, okay? 1st and 10. They're in the high red, okay? So now we talk about protection, okay? They had a all region Q here, All-American, right? Susquehanna, phenomenal job. Their offensive line was great. It's a great team, right? But even the greatest of teams, they get simple in this presentation, okay? So right here, at the end of the day, all right, they decided, hey, instead of big on big in this, they're going to full slide and put that All-American back at the edge, all right? And he's an All-American tailback, and he's a phenomenal player, right? Thankful don't have to deal with him anymore, right? As a coach, he's the one that he's great to compete with, but damn, it makes life hard. But now he's one-on-one in pass pro with one of our best defensive outside backers, defensive ends. That's a win for us. He is not out, and if he is out, you have somebody in man on him here. But look right at the end zone. You see, we're expecting, hey, we can have the one-on-one matchups. We're rushing, right? But now they full slide away. And now you're creating that one-on-one with an edge against a player that does not traditionally do that blocking. And then you see the vertical set displacement. They get their pass key, and you see 31-10 really setting that hard edge. And now, hey, they're pressing it high. The Q gets to the top of his drop. We can counter back, close the cup, right? Our nose is a little wonky here as he's working way off the nose of the quarterback in terms of that rush lanes, right? But you see, they're full slide. They got 5 to block 4, and now we have a one-on-one here against a guy who's more worried about carrying the ball and catching the ball as he should be. You're creating those opportunities to get him behind the sticks. All right? And again, I picked these first because they're the most recent, right? But also the different counters that we talked about. So here you're going to see a version of GT counter where they're going to pull that inline. Well, that was their check for the bear, right? That was sorry about that. That was their check for the bear that week. Okay. So you see, we get into the bear look. That's how they wanted to run it, was okay. They were giving bear, so we're going to make sure we're pulling that G and Y from the inline. Try to change that look. Try to make sure, hey, we can really block that 3-0-3, right, and create some down blocks here. You see the knockback. You see the displacement, the playing with hands, right? You have an unblocked edge player here, right? Because they may have repped this all week against the even front or some type of odd front with 4-0-4, but now you slide into the bear. Maybe they weren't. Maybe that tackle wasn't ready for it. He's blocking down to nobody, right? You see the violent edges it creates, the dent up top by number 10. You know, we can have a whole nother podcast on denting. All right. And that I think, Coach, I vote is the next one. All right. We'll do an hour of denting. All right. And denting kick out blocks and base and pressures, right? And why you do it. You know, Don Brown, one of the best defensive minds in the last 30 years, right? He's said it, and everybody's, parroted it, and they rightfully so. All right, let's talk again. I wanted to start with, hey, what are the counters that you're going to see? Okay, so here we go. We're back into that presentation. Okay, 4th and 2, right? So money situation. We said, hey, we want to run the bear game. We've incorporated a twist. Okay, so that's the wrap tag. So we wanted a twist there. But now, hey, they came out and said, all right, we're going to run the speed option, right? Put us in a tough spot. All right. So for us, we said, hey, instead of spinning this off ball Y in the cover 1, we play a little 2-on-2 leverage. So we're going to get an unblocked player here. That's your quarterback player, your keep player. He's got to feather the pitch and make sure I don't lose leverage on this thing, but I can't commit. I want to make him make the first move. Okay. I'm a big hockey fan, coach. If you've been watching, right, the Olympics been a phenomenal year for it. But really, it's like a 2-on-1 in hockey, right? At the end of the day, if you make the first move as the defender, you're done, right? It's the same thing. You're going to have a wide open shot. Right here, he's got to get his late move. He's got to pop a hair sooner. But now you see the leverage our safety can work with. Yes, they got us. The will here is sealed, right? Our twist game actually hurt us here, right? Because we're looping away, right? We're looping away. But now their check is something we said all week. Hey, if we get this is how we're going to fit it, right? This is the option they could give us. And it's still, you can make the play, get off the field. And the whole time, that offensive play caller is saying, oh, we got him, right? We got him. They're in the bear. Let's go to it. If you are able to know that that's coming in terms of, hey, this is what they could do, it still is a simple way for us to attack it and put ourselves in a good spot. All right. Now let's get back to the protection element of it as well. Okay. So we sometimes walking up late, right? That's all well and good. But now here's the big on big example as we go to the end zone. So now, hey, instead of the full slide, they're protected with 6. They're trying to double, right? The edge they've deemed most dangerous. But look at that picture. You now have 1v1 across the board. Your pass rush menu is open. It's open for the young man to, hey, am I going to play with violence and knock back? Am I going to use a little more finesse, right? But I have my role. As I open that picture up, hey, I am the shoulder players, right? The high cage, if you will. Hey, I'm the near eye rusher. Okay. And then now with the 5th, he's the nose. So we have that cupped up. And now you can let your players play, right? And 12, he's man on the back. Okay. Takes a little bit of a calculated risk as he sees, hey, he's not leaking right now. So boom, let me add myself to the party. Okay. Let me add myself to the party. We love to say, hey, when you're going to add, you better add through him. This is if you take the risk like this, you better get the ball. Better get the ball. And what do you know? Right? Production, right? It rules the roost. He made an instinctive play. He understood the rules behind it. All right. Skipping ahead just to give some couple more examples to make sure we're in a good spot time-wise, Coach. All right?
Yes, sir.
So again, various situations now. So here you go. 11 personnel, right? 20 personnel, right? If you want to get to it's 11, right? That off-ball Y. You don't want to just be walking up to play bear and playing that cover 0. All right, hey, I could still have the presentation where my nickel can be out here in space. I now can walk a safety down to the side of the off ball, the sniffer, and now we could be in great leverage and still send 5, especially with the RPO teams and the like. You're creating those one-on-ones. You're seeing the dent up top by the anchor, right? They have, this version of, power no pull, the duos, all those things that you could call it, right? But now we've created one-on-ones, right? There is no double team taking place here. Not one, right? And this team loved a pass set on the front side of their duo to get you to run upfield. But now you have leverage. If you don't want to hand it off, great. Our corner is in a little bit of a tough spot, in terms of his technique. But that aggression, let's throw it into a cover 1 press corner. Why would we? Right? Like that's not the play that you'd run a fade there, but they didn't have that, right? You're forcing options. Okay. You're forcing options and doing it with this, violence, and now putting yourself in a position to create that. You see the surge of the line of scrimmage, right? Different people, different years. It didn't matter, but this is the intent. Boom. And now in critical moments, right? Here's later in that same game. All right. Now it's into the drop back world. This is 3rd and 6, right? So again, it was 3rd and 1. It was 1st and 10, 2nd and 10. Now it's 3rd and 6 here, right? Again, we're getting that add through mindset as we're coming through. But see the hard edges. We can run the hoop, create those one-on-ones. right? And put ourselves in an opportunity to let your rushers rush, right? Let them create fear in these offensive linemen because of the vertical get off and eliminate the help. If help becomes the back chipping, okay, that's a win for us. They're not used to it. That's not something that they do well, right? They don't rep it a ton. That puts us in a great spot. Again, skip it ahead for some time's sake here. All right. So now let's talk about it in terms of what does it give you? Because again, we love bear and the short yardage and things of that nature, but now, again, verse 10, 11 personnel, how do you want to get into the bear stuff, but still not sacrifice and be just a necessarily cover zero or stick, right? Now you're in cover one with the right people. So down here, right, here we go. It starts off with the one high. Okay, we checked it based on the back this week, right? So at the end of the day, we have ourselves in a situation here where we can have leverage on the formation. We're still getting the pressure. It was 50-50 run pass down here. So it's like, hey, I still have a stout movement, right? Of, hey, stout movement meaning like, hey, we're up front. We're creating that knockback. We have leverage on the formation. And now here you get your naked, right? He's still able to leverage it properly, put ourselves in a spot where they have to make a timing throw out on the perimeter, right? Instead of the dump right to the wide hide, right? That's what they're trying to find, wide open, but it's covered. The knockback is there, and now that decision is gone. All right, you see that picture, right? Building that bear and saying, yes, I can align in it. I can do those things. We can leverage the football properly. And now that was the cover one version, but now down here, let's talk about the bracket version. So now let's create that same 5-0 look, but now we'll incorporate a twist, and now we want to bracket, okay, the two top threats that we deem. Right. So in this game plan, we said, hey, the slots were who we're bracketing here. So as they run through, you see the motion on the run. Hey, we're going to make sure we're bracketing to each side to say, hey, we're going to eliminate that look. Right. We're going to eliminate that look because he would force it. Even though we're in that look, that 3-over-2 picture, this whip here, probably not something we want to look for. I'd probably take the inside breaking route. Right. But no, he tries to force it. That's how you can have some fun of, hey, I want to bracket this. Our backs taken care of. We auto peel in this one, right? So now if he stays up to protect, you got the loop to occupy him, and everybody's got the back in terms of, hey, if he leaks through the line, the loopers got him, right? Wherever they find him, we mug him up. But now you're sending 5 still with your rush, right? But you have that double bracket element, okay? And again, we can spend hours and hours on the double bracket rules and the like, but at the end of the day, just showing the versatility. Okay, so here you go. Same deal. We wanted brackets on the slots, right? That was just the plan itself. Okay, and now look, you're going to get the 5 out, back out. We get the peel, right? So now the backs or the quarterback saying, "Hey, this is my first check down. I'm covered. Okay, let me throw it to the back." Well, now somebody's peeling with the back. Now we created that looper, right? And now that even with only rushing 4. Okay, gets 5 with the back out, creates that indecision. He doesn't know where to go, and now you can let your rushers rush. Got the peel. They were expecting the bear cover 1 or some type of bear zeros. We go through, and it gives us an opportunity now to create brackets, create confusion and indecision to let those one-on-ones win. Okay? Again, dealing with the motion, getting ourselves. You see a bracket, a 3-over-2 here, a bracket now to the most vertical threat. It looks for the Q. He's like, wait, why is this happening? And why is this pressure in my face? The bracket stuff, usually only 4 guys are coming or 3 and a spy. But now everybody is able to create that pressure and put ourselves in that spot. Here's another one down here. Same deal. All right. This week, you saw the previous clip. We had checked it based on the back tendency. But here, your top receivers, doubled, right? He wants to go take it. Low percentage, outside fade. Great. Dare him to throw the slant that they had run all year up to it. Like, it gives us those opportunities. Okay. Same thing down here. Okay. Getting ourselves into it. Shout out to Bucknell tight ends coach, Mac Austin here, walking up to choke this inline Y, right? But we're in our double bracket world, right? Changing the picture. Okay. We have a peel concept on, so that backer's able to do it. Really, our outside piece of this bracket could stay tighter on this vertical route, this vertical stem. And now, again, QB thinks, hey, it's bare. Let me get it to the back check down. Well, the back's taken. He's peeled with. Okay. Your loop does a phenomenal job here as you look at the tighter view, the little loop game. Okay. Which we will, again, can go into the wrap stuff later in terms of, hey, how do we build it and how do we find the tendencies off of it? Whether it's the back or the tight end, you could find where the slide's going to split. Here, they 4-1'd it, right? So they didn't give you your traditional, hey, we're going to big on big, right? They 4-1'd it. And now it creates that beautiful, nice loop for your backside three as he comes through, and now they're throwing it into the gut. So, again, super excited about all this. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. I hope, again, try to wet the beak in an hour. You know what I mean? We could do this for hours, but super important and was really excited to do so. I have my contact info here. And as you guys have any questions, I'm excited to go through this further and dive into deeper topics. So
this is awesome, Coach. I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff. All right. So I'm kind of doing this, kind of asking a rando question at the end of this stuff.
For sure.
All right. So I'm going to go away from football just because I know now you're a South Jersey guy.
For sure.
Man, best pizza.
Wow.
Because I'm in Florida now, so like when I come back to Manasquan, like first thing I do is I go to Squan Tavern, and I'm like, I gotta, because I can't get good pizza down here.
No doubt. So growing up, I would say in South Jersey, there was a few spots that I loved. I think the best pie, though, great where I grew up in the Marlton, Cherry Hill area, Scotto's pie was always a big one, Scotto's pizza. And then we had a little spot, some of my family lived over in Barrington Heights. Vito's pizza was always a good one. So, again, you go to these little mom and pop shops, and they're kind of off the beaten path, as I look back at fond memories there. I know Angelo's has gotten blown up in Philly. You know what I mean? In terms of they've come on strong here. I blessed that in that world of Philly and Jersey and then up into New York, we can go get a bagel or a pizza and it's the best thing literally since sliced bread, right? Like it truly is. And, my wife's from Cleveland, and I remember when I brought her out for the first time this way, the bagel, like she was just like, oh my God, I've never had anything like this in my life. I'm like, yep, pizza, bagel, the bread's different and it hits. So they got to say those spots though, Vito's and Scotto's were mine growing up, in that area. I'm sure there are a ton of others though that have fantastic options, but those were two that I always went to.
We got this place. It's actually my saving grace down here. We got this place from the owner from Point Pleasant, and it's called New York Bagel, and he gets the bagels from Jersey. And it's like when my kids got a little older, we moved down here. They were 3 and 1. So as I kind of got a little older, I started taking them there and give them the pork, leg and cheese, and salt, pepper, ketchup, the whole nine. So it's
okay. Yes, sir.
You can take us out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of us, man. We're always looking for our fix. But Coach, listen, I appreciate it. Obviously, we're going to be doing a few more of these because, like I said, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth. I'm a big Coach Brown's been my mentor for about 20 years now, and he has a house down in Naples, so he'll be coming down in 2 weeks. So I think I'm gonna try to get him out on the golf course. Because that's what you do down here. You go fishing, you play golf, or you go on a boat. Like, it's a little different than little different than what I was used to. I'm sure you were used to, growing up in South Jersey. But listen, I wish you the best of luck. And then we'll be talking, again, because we definitely want to do another one on the pressure and the bracket stuff. I think that would be huge. But thank you so much for taking the time, and best of luck with the move, with your family. And I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. You have a great one.
You too.
See ya.